We'd love to see more people go to the video booth and give us 10 or 15 or 20 seconds about what they think about equality. And as soon as Pierce and any of the other candidates get here, we will try and get the ball rolling. We do apologize. Thank you so much. Hey everybody, thanks again so much. We're going to get started with what we've got going on tonight because we don't want to waste people's time and make you sit here in anticipation. The theme tonight is equality and equality of opportunity. I did want to say a little bit about that myself before I bring up a couple of speakers from organizations who have generously volunteered their time to be here and talk about equality. One of the reasons we're doing this tonight in a more interactive method is we feel equality itself is about hearing from everyone, hearing from the populace, hearing your thoughts on equality generally. We've been using the MayorUp hashtag, and we're still using that as a way for you to give feedback to the candidates. Our first two debates, or our first two mayoral forums about policing and affordable housing, we were able to get lots of conversation about that. We're hoping, even though tonight events have led us to not have all of the candidates here, that we can still get lots of feedback from you about what you think about equality and equality of opportunity. For me personally, the way I try to really understand equality and equality of opportunity is to internalize the perspective of the other, to really try on some level to put yourself in the mind space, the head space of the other. And of course, that's obviously a very difficult thing to do practically on any level. I do have an exercise where my old roommate used to help me with this. He would talk about the clan of the cave bear, if anyone knows that story, Jane Aul. It's about Neanderthals and Cro-Magnon man and very far back in the day. And my roommate would say that I'm not the most practical person. I'm not the person who you hand the hammer and the nail or the saw or really any power tools. And he used to say that I would have to be the medicine man, that there was only one medicine man per tribe, and you had to be good enough to be the medicine man. And for me, what that made me think about was the perspective of the other. And the way that works is anytime I'm standing in a constructed building like this beautiful space the Rickhouse has let us use, or any one of tons of other homes, buildings, places around Durham, I think these buildings weren't here 200 years ago or 250 years ago. Someone else, some other, had to put these buildings together, had to, with the force of their hands, give us the city that we've got. Every one of the bricks was laid by someone who came before us. So to me, that is a very alien and difficult other to understand, but it allows me to think about whether it's being a different skin color, being a different orientation, being a different income level, to think about the other. And I think it is something that generally Durham does really well, is try to put ourselves in each other's perspective, try to think about equality from each other's perspectives, but we really want you to give us that feedback about how we can do it better. What's the most important way you want to see your mayoral candidates and eventually your mayor stand for equality, whether it's in the face of the larger things we see going on in the legislature or in society, or whether it's what you see happening on your block every day. What do you want your mayoral candidate, and what do you feel are the issues of equality and equal opportunity that we need to talk about in Durham? To that end, I have Anthony Maglione from 10K for All, an organization which stands for equality and is working on equality here in Durham, who has volunteered not only to table, but to come and talk a little bit about some of the issues of equality and equal opportunity in Durham facing all of us, including the mayoral candidates, who hopefully we will see at least some of soon. Thank you again so much for coming. Thank you to the Rickhouse for making this possible. Thank you to all of our sponsors who generously donated so that we could pull these things off. We are very grateful. Thank you to my partner, Heather Cook, hiding over in the corner there, who, if you do have questions that you want to hear, we may not hear from the candidates tonight, but we will use that MayorUp hashtag to put your questions back out there to the candidates, where they will be able to answer them online in the future. Anthony Maglione, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. You did a nice semblance merge of our organization name and our campaign name. So I'm Anthony Maglione. I'm with Durham for All, and we have launched the 10K Strong campaign, which we've been talking to some of you all about a little bit, and I want to share a little bit more. This is also one of the first times I've been on a stage where I feel like I'm in spotlight stardom. I cannot see any of your faces. It's quite eerie. But welcome, everyone. How y'all doing? Great, good. All right, so let's dig in. What what I wanted to say first is that amidst all of these heavy things that are happening in our lives, I've got my abuela's in Puerto Rico right now, which I just heard from. And yeah, it's just been hard stuff, and it's been hard to tap into hope a lot of times. And the work that we've been doing with Durham for All has been going around and having thousands of conversations with folks to connect with them and help bring them out of hopelessness and into shared and collective purpose. And we've been doing that through our 10K Strong campaign. But what I want to say first, given this event, is that in Durham now, this is a hopeful time. We have an opportunity to create the most progressive city council, majority people of color led, in the South. And that's no small thing. Yes, that's right. Let's hear that. And that's on top of one of the most regressive and repressive state legislators that we have ever faced, that has been tying our hands behind our back, left and right. And so, you know, a lot of people say, well, Durham's fine, it's okay, we're progressive enough. But it's crucial in this moment to be building enough resilience and enough power so that not only can we create the strongest progressive hub here in the South, but so that we can battle the folks in the state legislature and beyond who are breaking us. And so, like I said, it's we have this opportunity. We also have folks running that are some of the strongest progressive candidates. We now have a good problem of having to choose between strong progressive candidates in our local election. And the question that Durham for All has been grappling with coming out of that is, once this council is created, how are we going to hold them accountable? What mechanisms do we have in place to hold them accountable? Does anyone have any thoughts, ideas around that right now? I heard I had some more time, so I'll do some hand calling. I may not be able to see your hands, so you may have to make yourself known. Anyone? Anyone want to be bold? How are we as a community going to hold our elected officials accountable? Is it nerves, or do we not know? Raise your hand if you're just like, actually, I don't know. So the question again, third time's a charm, it's okay. How are we going to hold our elected officials accountable? Yes. Keep holding these forums after the election. Okay. And by holding the forums, I don't mean to pick on you, and anyone else can answer. So by holding the forums, how is that going to allow us to demonstrate or hold them accountable? What specifically about holding the forum will do that? Is that open? That can be open or for you. Yep. Shielding? Yep, I want to do it too. Right. Totally. Yep. I think that needs to be a two-way street too. I mean, I think we need to hear from them. What are some of the obstacles? I mean, I look back at all the things on the back wall, and unfortunately, our budget is the biggest obstacle they're going to have. Mm-hmm. And so we need to hear from them. What are the obstacles they're hitting, and try to help them work it out together. Because it's not just, you know, we've got to have this. What is keeping us from getting these things? Mm-hmm. I mean, for example, 20 years ago, I was the housing code administrator for the city. Lyon Park, West End, and Northeast Central Durham, the city was pouring money into them. Pouring. Just millions of dollars, and nothing happened. Right. Nothing was improved. Right. So we need to, it needs to be a dynamic conversation, not just say, you've got to do this when we're not sure we're giving them the tools to do it. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's an important distinguishment to make is that, like, these are people that we're electing into these roles of leadership, not someone that's untouchable. right? And that they are doing a lot of hard work in that. I mean, one of my best friends is on council right now, and it's amazing day after day the work that she's having to do to stay on top of everything. Over there? Yes.
So aren't city council meetings open? Like, why can't we show up at these meetings or go to their offices and write them letters and give them phone calls and, like, collectively let them know that we know and we see you?
Yep. And those steps have been happening, and they've been forming more. And so part of what 10K Strong is about is building on that. And the community forum spaces, avenues to bring together mass amount of people that more and more represent all of Durham. So folks who we often don't see at these spaces that are perhaps the most impacted by policies from the state level, from the federal level, but also on our local level as well. And so what we're doing with 10K Strong is we're working to build a mass movement in Durham that's 10,000 people across race and class that can take political action both at the ballot box and in the streets so that we can win back our government and we can build a new democracy. And we think that what we need is organize. Sorry, y'all. Is there any way to turn down the lighting at all, or is that a little too late? I'm just realizing how distracting that is.
Can we do a little bit with the lighting for Anthony? I think it'll mess with the video is the problem.
It's the only way I can see you.
Yeah, you won't be visible otherwise. One of the things I want to say to the crowd that we had considered in terms of these forums is, would people like to hear, after each of the candidates answer a question, someone from the audience answer a question? Like the same question. We went through at these last forums, and each of the candidates would answer the same 4 questions. Would you then like to hear someone from the audience say what they think about that kind of question? When we think about these forward-going forums, and we love the idea of doing forums that are participatory with the candidates after someone's been elected, with the council after someone's been elected. I will give a brief plug for the Clarion Content. We do already shoot a YouTube show with Steve Schul called Town Hall that Justin Laidlaw, Buddy Rusky, somewhere out here in the audience, as a citizen, asked Steve questions about everything from we've been out to the Department of Solid Waste and talked to them about how they manage that, to we've done affordable housing and various other topics. And we certainly would love to continue with that kind of forum. But I'm with Anthony that what we want not only is to hear from the media, not only to hear from the candidate, but more importantly to hear from the people about what they think are the important issues.
Thank you. Yeah, and so I want to share a bit more about what we've been up to and why, and how we're hoping to build a mechanism of accountability that is a mass base and a vehicle in which we can be holding our elected officials accountable in alliance and on a team, basically, a squad. We've been holding these mass monthly meetings as a way to share about what we're up to, of bringing more folks into the process. And we've got Leandre back there at the table. Leandre has been part of a team of organizers who've been going out and connecting with folks across Durham and talking to them about what their vision of Durham is and how they want to see it governed, and asking them to be a part of this team, to take action with us, and be a part of a multiracial progressive alliance that can hold our elected officials accountable. And not only that, be a part of this alliance so that we can be building collective power and towards a strategy of defeating the far right at the state level. Because we're not going to get out of this just through the local work. And Durham for All is focused right now on the local level, but we also feel like that one of the things that has happened and put us in this situation is that progressives have not had a strong electoral strategy. We haven't had a way in which we can capture and maintain political power. And that's why across the nation, there are, does anyone know actually the number of states in which Republicans have full control of both chambers and the governor's seat? Someone said it, I heard it. 26 states. And does anyone know how many Democrats hold? It's a lot less. It's way less. I don't think it's 14. I actually don't know that number, so I'm gonna have to look that one up.
Tricky, Anthony. Very tricky to ask the question without the answer.
I know. I figure there's someone in there. I didn't realize it right as I just dug that hole. So we think that's because the far right has had a really clear strategy about how to capture political power, and they've used it to destroy our communities. And we need a strategy too. So this first step is about building the most progressive, most POC-led city council that we've ever had in Durham, and potentially leading across the South. And then creating accountability measures in which we can be taking collective action together in ways that folks have shared to hold our elected officials accountable and be a part of this bigger movement, and then take on the folks at the far right at the state level and across the country. So you all have pledge cards in your seat, and we are asking that you join us in this. There are different ways to pledge. Simply one is just by saying, yes, I agree to these values, to these principles that we're putting out. You can read our full pledge, which lays out the 5 core principles that we've generated after years of talking to folks across Durham about what they want to see in our city. And you can connect in other ways as well. You can bring other folks into the fold to sign on to pledges. You can commit to sustaining our work. We're using the majority of our resources to fund full-time and part-time organizers to do base building and create organizing committees within working class and POC communities across Durham, and activate leadership that hasn't been activated because folks have been just trying to survive. And so we've been connecting with folks in order to bring more in. You know, the theme here of equality of opportunity is that there's a lot of communities in Durham that haven't been tapped into in terms of having their voices heard and creating channels in which they can participate. So that's a big part of what we're up to with Durham for All. I'll be over in the corner so you can ask more questions of us, and we hope you'll sign the pledge and join in to help build 10K Strong. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anthony. Thank you so much. And we really appreciate everybody coming out tonight and sharing your thoughts and opinions on equality and equality of opportunity. Remember, we will have the Mayor Up hashtag out there where you can put even more out. We do have another speaker tonight. Andy Oliver from Prison Books has generously agreed to come and talk about what their organization does. Use this bully pulpit, as we hope so many of you will, to spread good ideas about equality and equal opportunity. Thanks so much for coming, Andy.
All right, thank you. Thank you all, and I would like to thank Aaron and Heather Cook and Clarion Content for giving us this forum to talk about prison books. So I'm going to start off, we're the Prison Books Collective, we're in Durham. I'm going to start off and just say a little bit about the issues we face, and then I'll talk a little about the organization. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States, or any place subject to their jurisdiction. With these words, legal slavery ended in the United States, with one loophole. If the state can declare you a criminal, then the state can enslave you. Our country was built by slaves and born with an addiction to slavery. In order to continue our addiction and to avoid addressing the pressing issues that have always plagued us, poverty, economic and educational opportunity, and making those fairly available to everyone, regardless of race, religion, or gender, we instead created crimes of race and punished crimes of poverty, and criminalized the disease of addiction, as well as immigration. Sometimes the immigration we criminalized were people trying to escape the wars that we started, or despots that we backed. There is always money for more prisons and police, despite no evidence that more of these things reduce crime or increase safety. And considerable evidence that they don't, in some cases, increase violence. Prison books cannot solve all of these things, but we can do is lend a voice to the incarcerated by publishing prisoner writing and art. We can bring education and escape to people in prison by mailing them works of literature, poetry, and information. And yes, that includes Game of Thrones. When I first volunteered, I read a letter from someone who was barely literate. It was obvious from his letter, who asked me for information on how they could become a writer. They said they wanted to better themselves. I was able to send them a book on writing and a book on grammar and a dictionary. That's actually our #1 request, is the dictionary. I don't generally look up why people are in prison, but often I see it because I have to check to make sure they're still in the same prison, because North Carolina likes to move you as far away from your friends and family as possible, often at random for no particular reason. But I looked at this fellow, and I could see that he mainly had committed crimes of poverty, right? If you were desperate and you were hungry and you had no money and you had no, I mean, you're not literate enough to be able to get the kind of jobs that would keep you afloat, you might steal something. So that's what he'd done. And I wondered, how could we have failed him so badly? I mean, we're one of the wealthiest countries in the world. I've since mailed thousands of packages of books throughout North Carolina and Alabama and the states that we serve. So, you know, what Prison Books needs mainly are volunteers. We're a couple months behind of letters, which is heartbreaking because it means somebody mailed something and they're sitting there waiting for their books and it's been 2 months and they don't have them yet. So we need volunteers. Every Sunday from 1 to 4 you can get the address or go to prisonbooks.info. We need money for postage. That is, we spend at least $100 to $200 a week just mailing the stuff out. And yes, we do need some books. We need particular books. We do not need any more Tom Clancy books. I don't know why. We need books on, in particular, black fiction, black nonfiction, urban fiction, true crime, dictionaries, thrillers, except Tom Clancy. We need a lot of Stephen King. I don't know why. The movie came out. And you can find out more. I'll be back there, or go to our website, prisonbooks.info. I really enjoy reading the writing and the art that we publish from prisoners. We publish a magazine, or what we call a zine, because we're not allowed to send magazines. We're also not allowed to send Sun Tzu's Art of War. It's banned in North Carolina because, you know, don't hurt your enemy if you can turn them into an ally is bad information that prisoners shouldn't get. We're also banned is a zine that we publish in North Carolina called How to Survive Solitary Confinement, that tells you things like how to organize your mind so that you don't go crazy in solitary confinement. I have changed, and I can change it again if you tell on me, I have changed the title of that, because they're banned by title, to Handbook on Being a Model Prisoner. That does test my desktop publishing skills, but I was able to do that. So this is something I stumbled upon in Durham. This is my community. It's a subject I care about because if people, you know, I had friends who had a criminal record from something they did when they were 19 or something somebody said they did when they were 19 or what have you. And at times they couldn't get the kind of jobs they wanted even though they were fully qualified for it. I've known people who I thought, wow, you have so much potential, but they knew they had never had the opportunities I had for education or jobs or economic opportunity. And, you know, like the organization over there, I want Durham to be for all. So I'd love if everybody came to a work day, Sundays 1 to 4. If you feel, if you have the means and feel the need, then give us some money for postage. Tell your friends. If you've got a large collection of urban fiction in particular, send that our way. Any questions from the audience? And I will try to see because it's on Etta Road. I have the address back there, or you can go to prisonbooks.info. It's 4312. I'm a little dyscalculic, so Etta Road. And I've got a brochure back there, or you can look on prisonbooks.info for the complete address. Awesome. Anyone else? Reading letters from prisoners, putting books in the envelope, putting the name of the prisoner, their prisoner number, and the name of the prison that they're at. I put the mailing labels on later so that goes out there. So that's a main thing. We also have occasionally, we'll organize a pool of volunteers who will help do if they have the skills to kind of help publish our basically we try to do it twice a year, a zine, and you can take a look at it back there or on our website if you like, called Words of Fire, which is a collection of prisoner art and writing. Anyone else? So I'll ask you to think of this. There seems to, like I said, always be money for more police and more prisons and more jails and a large police fortress on Main Street separating one side of town from the other. But there doesn't usually seem to be enough money for education or poverty reduction or housing or all the things that we actually have seen evidence. We've seen no evidence. Do we have the least crime in the civilized world? Anyone think so? No. Okay. Do we have the most people in prison in the civilized world? Yes. So does having more prisons and more policing reduce crime? No. So if we want to do that, should we fund more policing and more prisons? No. So that won't make us safer, will it? But we have seen studies that say if we increase funding for reducing poverty, making people hopeful, reducing addiction by treating addiction like a disease, that will actually reduce crime. We've seen that worldwide. So I'll leave you with that thought, and hopefully that's something we can ask the candidates how they feel about it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Anthony, for coming out. Really appreciate it. I do want to say, Pierce is obviously already here. Shay Ramirez is on her way. Farad Ali did tell us in advance that he had a conflict. Unfortunately, Steve Schul is not here, sadly, because of the passing of his mother, which he is dealing with. I asked him to give me something about where people could contribute in lieu of flowers. He said his mother was passionate about Beacon of Hope, which attempts to get kids who graduate high school in Lynchburg, Virginia, but cannot afford a secondary education, a post-secondary education. It's called Beacon of Hope. You can reach me or the Clarion Content at the Clarion Content Gmail. I will get you their address. I will get you their website if you would like to make a contribution. I would like to add one other thing before I turn the mic over to Pierce. One of the most frequent questions Heather and I have heard is about what is the role of the mayor of Durham. And I will say we're working on an article at the Clarion Content about that. We've talked to several of the city council standing members about making that distinction. And mostly what people are telling us is the role is twofold. There is a legislative role for the mayor, where like a member of the city council, they have a vote. But secondly, there is a bully pulpit role for the mayor, where when something like the National Council of Mayors meets, we're not represented by a council person, we're represented by a mayor. When we meet with our other sister cities, which Durham has 6 sister cities across the globe, it's the mayor. When we talk to various large multinational corporations or even small businesses about starting here, the mayor is the face of Durham. So that is the role beyond simply they vote. We are trying to get an expert further longer article about that on the Clarion Content for people who are curious. I just wanted to acknowledge that I had heard that question from various people, and we are thinking about it much in the way you are thinking about it. And one of the great things is we have a lot of good choices for mayor here. We have a lot of wonderful candidates. If you've seen our previous forums, they've done great. If you haven't seen them, they're on our YouTube channel. Tonight's topic is equality of opportunity. We're giving each of the candidates we were going to give them 2 minutes, but since we are only at one candidate, if Pierce wants 3, I'm sure no one will object. And without further ado, Pierce Freelon on equality of opportunity. Pierce, thank you so much for coming. And he did come straight from a forum at TROSA, so he wasn't goofing off. He was telling other people more about what he's going to do for the city.
Thank you. Thank you. How's everybody doing? All right. Thank you so much for your patience. I was at, as you mentioned, as Aaron mentioned, forum with TROSA, which is a wonderful organization here in Durham that works with former substance abusers and provides them with housing and jobs. And it was really good vibes. We were in a basketball court, and I told them I would come at a later day so they could catch these buckets. Justin, I welcome you to join me in that effort. But, okay, cool. So, and also want to say before I jump in that I appreciate the gentleman who spoke before me providing some crucial context about the prison industrial complex and the role that that institution plays in preventing equity of opportunity and equality of opportunity. We can talk a little more about that tonight. But I want to start with, oh, hey, Shay. Shay was with me at the TROSA Forum, so that's my alibi. Okay, so I want to start talking about opportunity, not just in Durham, but in the United States. Across the country, 70% of Americans have less than $1,000 in their bank account. That's nationwide. And that means that the vast majority of the people in this country are one emergency, one mistake, one step away from homelessness, from poverty, from a desperate situation. And that's something that we need to change. We need to change it at the national level, and I think we can start here locally. I think the biggest problem, we were talking earlier, he was talking about public safety and the extent to which putting money into police and putting money into prisons does not actually make our communities more safe. The one thing that we can do to make our communities more safe, to make our streets safe and non-threatening, to make clean and well-furnished schools, is to provide jobs for people. Jobs at a living wage with benefits. We're working with the premise, with the starting point, that work is not a privilege. Work should be a human right that everyone has access to. Thank you for the snap. And if we're not starting there, then we got some work to do. And if you look at, so when I observe as a citizen of Durham, I was born and raised here, lived here my whole life. And when I look at where the energy has been focused in Durham, Rickhouse included, it's been in development downtown. It's been at profit and not equity, not sustainable growth. It's been about building up downtown, and there's a lot of, breweries and music venues and restaurants to show for that laser-like focus on development. But that development has pushed a lot of people out and has rendered a lot of the vulnerable folks, even more vulnerable, even more desperate. We already talked about where most folks are with just $1,000 in your bank account. When your property tax jumps up and you can't afford to pay it, and there's pressure for you to move and you're displaced, and your kids aren't able to go to the regular, to get into a cycle of being in school, because they're having to move. These things make our communities less safe. So for me, equity of opportunity starts with jobs. So we're proposing, one of the things we're proposing is a jobs guarantee. This is based on some scholarship from some economists at Duke University. Sandy Darity has written extensively about this. Mark Paul, who worked with Bernie Sanders' campaign and has been working closely with us on crafting a jobs guarantee for Durham. We've been thinking a lot about a municipal jobs guarantee. Sorry? Oh, I thought that was a high five. Sorry. Okay, almost set time. So anyway, I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to talk about it, but what we're proposing is a jobs guarantee because we think work is a human right, and if you're looking for work and you can't find it, then the market has failed you. And so the city can play a larger role in filling that gap by providing living wage jobs with benefits, and that's what we intend to do. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Pierce. We appreciate it. We're going to throw it over to Shay Ramirez. Give her 3 minutes, Meredith, to talk about equality of opportunity. And then in the past, we've collected questions. We've got some questions from our website. We do have a question that we will throw to them first after Shay speaks, and then we're going to turn it over to the audience, you, to ask questions about equality of opportunity. So Shay Ramirez, thank you so much for coming. We do know you came straight from Troshla. We appreciate it.
Good evening. How's everyone doing? That's good. Thanks for having me this evening. So for me, equality opportunity is the same but a little bit different. As you all know, I'm the only woman running for mayor of Durham. So it's very important that women are involved in this political process. I've had several ladies come up to me, and they're older than me. I'm 44, and they've said to me, I admire you because I want to run for office and I'm scared as hell. Okay? So, and I'm like, wow, thank you. So for me, this is more than just running for mayor. It is more of uplifting women and letting them know, hey, you too can do your part in the community. You too can run for office. We're not going to just allow, just because men are running more men than women, we can't allow them to dominate this area, right? So, been doing a little bit of research, and I want to read this quickly. When women are empowered as political leaders, countries experience higher standards of living. Y'all can snap for that. The positive developments can be seen in education, infrastructure, and health. Women's participation positively affects communities, legislature, political parties, and citizens' lives, and helps democracy deliver. When one woman is a leader, it changes her. But when more women are leaders, it changes politics and policies. The pipeline for female leaders seems to be widened as women have made significant gains in political arenas. However, as of September 2016, 10 women are serving as head of state and 9 are serving as head of government, representing solely only 6.9% of all political leaders in the world. Women are still discriminated in law and practice, making their access and continuation in leadership positions a challenging ambition. Support networks, mentoring, and training can help them to navigate complex male-dominant political institutions. So what I'm saying is that we have a lot of issues with equality, but for me, as me being the only woman running, for me this is personal as well, because I want to encourage other ladies, and not just Black ladies, but African American ladies, Hispanic ladies. My husband is Latino, and Caucasian ladies. We all need to jump in, and we need to join this political bandwagon, because let's face it, United States is in a lot of trouble. We'll talk about that though.
Thanks so much, Shay. We appreciate it. So the first question, and we'll just alternate back and forth between who answers first, if y'all are comfortable with that. The first question we have is about something, to your point, Shay, about the national stage and the state legislature. Given the volatile political climate on the national stage and the prevalence of extremism, given the North Carolina state legislature and what we're hearing from them, how do you personally, as the mayor of Durham, plan to protect equality and equality of opportunity in the face of the waves of radicalism we're seeing across the country. Shay or Pierce, who'd ever like to go first?
So for me, it's a priority. It's something that we have to do. We can't just talk about it. A lot of times we just talk about things, but we never like go forth and start putting action behind it. We can talk all day, but it's something that is a priority, and it's something that we can't talk about. We have to put forth an action behind it. So it's something that I will not allow, period. I will not tolerate it. Absolutely by no means necessary. I have several different members in my family with different backgrounds. My husband is Latino. I'm African American. I have a daughter that is LGBTQ, and I have a daughter that has autism. So you all get it, right? So I won't tolerate it. And it's hard because, you know, some of my family members been discriminated against? Yes. But will I tolerate it? No, I will not. It's very important, and we have to stand up for everyone, no matter their race, their religion, their skin color, their sexuality. And I think that's very important. And once we stand up and speak out, then that's when it changes. But if we say nothing, then nothing happens. So local government has to stand up and speak out for everyone and not just certain people of status quo.
Thank you so much, Shay. Pierce?
Thanks for this question. I think now is a crucial time in our country, in our state, where we start building political power locally, especially, you know, at the federal level. I was at EKPO today, speaking to elementary school kids. We did a little candidate forum there, and one of the kids asked what we thought about DACA and President Trump, you know, eliminating that Dreamers bill. And I told them I vehemently oppose it, and we need to lead with those values, because we can't control what they do in the White House, but we can control, to a certain extent, what happens here in Durham. When I sat down with the chief of police, we talked about ICE and how we don't need to be wasting city resources enforcing the racist policies of our federal government. And if we don't have political leaders who are willing to have those tough conversations with our public officials that we hire, you know, the city council gets the city manager hires the police chief, and the police chief sets the tone for how they go about protecting and serving. So we have an opportunity, even when the federal government is wilding out. I don't know how else to put it. Time? There's only two of us.
We can give him more time. Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So, I mean, so it's important, because this is how progress happens, okay? Greensboro, North Carolina, 1960s sit-in movement, okay? High school students, 18, 19-year-olds sitting down at a lunch counter. It happened in Durham as well at the Royal Ice Cream Shop, okay? They led with their values, even though it was in opposition to the state, opposition to the country. And then once people see that political action and that civic righteousness, then that pushes the conversation forward. And I think now more than ever, we need leaders who are bold enough to stand up against the racial gerrymandering happening in our state, against the racist policies, the transphobic policies, the you know, patriarchal policies of the White House. We need staunch opposition to that, and we need to lead with our values. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Pierce. So do we have a question from the audience? Someone have a question they would like to ask about equality of opportunity? I'm just going to come hand you the mic, or if you want to come up.
I just want to make Durham a better place, and it's time to come together as a family, as a team, to come together and be nice to one another, and stuff like that.
Thank you so much. Do you want to make a comment just briefly about what it means to come together as a team as Durham?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Pierce, and then Shay will allow you next.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, come together. Right now. Now is the moment. That's Durham, y'all. I was born and raised in this community where my mentor was a, 8-foot tall, dashiki wearing, you know, Pan-African, you know, queer black man. And I was raised in a community where my babysitter growing up was a Muslim woman. She took me to the mosque. I got down with the bean pie. I got down in Durham at Pride Festival, at Bembe Festival. You know, our city is so rich, and our strength is in our diversity. We have so many different types of flavors in Durham. And what's interesting, side story, but relevant to coming together. I was asked, we have to do a bunch of surveys. Running for mayor, they send you a bunch of surveys. You answer the question. So one of the questions in this survey was, Durham used to be known for violent crime and guns, but now you've turned a corner. What do you think about the new direction that Durham is in? And my answer to the question is, I don't even agree with the premise. I think that there have historically been thinly veiled racist stereotypes about Durham as being a violent town. But when my parents came, thank you, but when my parents came here in the 70s, they were excited about the sports rivalries, both Duke, Carolina, and the Aggie Eagle Classic, North Carolina Central and A&T. They were excited about the rich and vibrant culture, the diversity, the Durham Bowl. This is what Durham's strength is. And this is what sets us apart from the other areas of the triangle. It's our progressive values, it's our creative spirit, and I'm gonna stop talking now because I'm way over, but I think when we lead with those values and we just sit just comfortably in that identity, that's how we come together, that's how we win, that's how we lead the state of North Carolina.
Thanks so much, Pierce. So Shay, on Durham as a team building for equality.
So this week has been a trying week, the last couple of weeks, but this week has been a bad week in the United States. Las Vegas. Everybody knows about Las Vegas, right? For me, I don't know if you guys saw Jimmy Kimmel the other night. He was crying. I don't want a situation like that to happen in Durham. And it amazes me because they were talking about this on Good Morning America, and it was showing the heroic people coming together to save people's lives that didn't even know. Why do we have to wait for a tragedy to happen to do that? That bothers me. It really bothers me. And I want to be honest with you. We need to do better. We really need to do better. For me, I don't care what religion you serve, if you don't serve one, what we are commanded to do as human beings, we're supposed to love people. I don't have to know you to love you and see you in need and not want to help you. But we go about our day, right? It's not our problem. It doesn't concern us. But we have to change the narrative of the world we live in today because it's really bad. You can't even go to a freaking concert to enjoy yourself, a movie, to a restaurant, to a freaking church, right? People are hurting. We don't know why. But we have to do our part, and we have to talk to people. I'm not saying give them money. You have to give them money. Just communicate with people. We never know what people are going through. Just a kind, hi, how are you doing today can go a long way. So I don't know what's going on in that man's head. I don't know, but I know that he killed almost 60 people that didn't plan to die that day. And I don't want a situation to happen. I want to be proactive, right? And I think that Durham can set the tone. I really do. I think we can set the tone for the world because it's very well possible, but we need leadership in place that's going to make that happen.
Thank you so much, Shay. So I either have another question for the website or if someone in the audience has a question. Sir, would you like to have the mic here?
So, for the role of mayor, you're basically the face of the city. You don't get anything above the standard of a council member. How are you going to mitigate that power and be able to expand it out on a level that can really make a difference for the city?
For me, it's character. We have someone in office right now that has a business resume. And a lot of people that voted for him, I didn't vote for him. A lot of people that voted for him thought he would be good for the country. But as we can see, his character has been piss poor to say the least, right? I can use other words, but I will not. But to me, it's character. So as running for mayor and being the mayor, being the female mayor, if I win, ask you guys to vote for me, I have to make sure that I set an example for Durham. I have to make sure that I am everything that I say I am and more. I have to represent everyone in this city, not just me, but everyone. And I think that's very important because to me, someone said to me last week that said, well, Shay, you're running for mayor, but I don't think you can make the connections. And I'm like, wow, really? And they said, you don't know anybody. And I'm like, well, I know a lot of people. I know the people that you don't know. I know the citizens, right? I don't know the people up top, but I know the citizens. People up top don't know the citizens. I relate to them. So for me, it's accountability. I'm not going to do anything to any citizen that I won't want done to me. I care about people wholeheartedly, and I care what happens to people. I care about their lives. I have kids. I have a husband. So to me, if you are affected, if you're hurt, I'm going to hurt because my character is to care and to help, not worrying about who you are, where you come from, your background, your sexuality, or your religion. So for a mayor, they're the face of the city, but they set the tone. And as being a leader, you have to care, and you have to make everyone else's priorities top notch, and that's what I plan to do.
Thank you so much, Shay. Pierce?
So can I does the hand up mean there's like seconds left? 10 seconds. Okay, then it's like, okay. It's not loser.
And we're trying to be soft and gentle.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, for those of you who don't recognize the reference, that was Ace Ventura. So I think it's really important, it's a great question that I don't think a lot of people realize. And in Durham, our city council is such that the mayor is just another member of city council. There's no political power that a mayor has that other members of council don't have. Everybody's got one vote. And I want you to think about that when you go to the polls and decide who you're going to vote for, because there are some people who are already on city council running for mayor who are building no progressive political power for city council in doing so. And I think it's important when we think strategically about the values and the policies that we want to see enacted, that we actually have a quorum of progressive votes on the council, not just the person that we want to see in that seat. That's one point. Another one that I'll make is that, yes, the mayor is the face of the city. And what does that mean? I think it's important that our mayor reflect our robust diversity. I talked a lot about that already. I'm someone who was born and raised here in Durham. I've taught on the campuses of each of our area institutions, and I've also been on the trenches with the organizers in the community. And I think if you go talk to people in the community, they'll let you know who's been there and who hasn't been there. We need somebody who can communicate and relate to and reflect, the beautiful diversity of our city. So that's one thing. One thing that's missing too, diversity-wise, on our city council, I think is really an intergenerational dialogue. And this goes to something that I didn't get a chance to talk about earlier as it relates to building political power in Durham, in our state, and in our country. Millennials are the largest voting bloc in the United States of America. And I think it's important that we start building millennial leadership so that we have the political power we need to get these people out of our state also. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Pierce. Another question from the audience over here. I will bring the mic to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to do the annoying thing where people use their own personal anecdotal things to inform a question. I'm both a musician and I work with folks with developmental and intellectual disabilities. So going back towards the topic of the forum with equality of opportunity, I wanted to ask about creating jobs and ways of being engaged for what we think of as maybe the less represented or less quote-unquote traditional communities as far as work. So people with disabilities, people in the creative economy or the gig economy, and then space for y'all to expand on that however you'd like.
Okay, Will and I went to elementary school together, buddies. So that's a really good question, Will. And I actually live, I live on Markham Avenue, but our campaign headquarters is on North Street, right up North Street, right? And North Street, yes. Make some noise for North Street. So North Street is an intentional community, right? Where people with, you know, able-bodied folks and people with disabilities kind of live together on the same block. They live together, and I think that's a really important start. I think we need mixed income communities. I think we need intergenerational communities, and I think we need multi-ability communities. And we see that happening, and I love that it's starting with the citizens. And this is the other beautiful thing about Durham. I think city policy, if you want to find good city policy, just look at the people in this community and the wonderful things that they're already doing and find ways to amplify and multiply the incredible work that's already being done. And I think that's an important role for the mayor to play. In terms of jobs specifically, we've talked about this quite a bit with our Jobs Guarantee program. We need to make sure that we're providing jobs. Like right now in Durham, the jobs that are available are mostly tech jobs. And those jobs everyone isn't eligible to get one of those tech jobs. If you don't go to a four-year institution, if you're not a political scientist, an electrical engineer or a, computer scientist, maybe you don't like coding, you're not into that. We need to start making sure that we're creating manufacturing jobs. We've been talking with the Jobs Guarantee about things like elderly care, things like child care, infrastructure work, green jobs, jobs that require a wide variety of skills, not just tech jobs. Because if we only focus on tech, then that's only going to bring a particular type of person to Durham, and that's not going to help us, sit comfortably in our diversity. We need to make sure that we're, providing different types of gigs. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierce. Shay?
Awesome question. It's funny you asked. I have a daughter that has autism. So for me, I have a model and talent agency, and what I do is I empower and I teach self-esteem and confidence through fashion and talent. And I know everyone does not want to be a photographer or model. And again, this area, it's mainly either medical or tech where you make your money. But for me, what I believe is that we need to realize that people with disabilities are people too, and they have gifts and talents as well. And the reason why I say that is because my daughter goes to DSA, and she's in a contained classroom. And when she started last year, I went to the principal, and I'm like, okay, well, hey, she's at DSA. This is an art school, so I want her to be a part of this, this, and this. And I was like, nope. I'm like, no, what do you mean? So the principal said, well, she didn't go through the lottery program, so she can't be a part of it because she's really not a student. I'm like, excuse me? She's a student, she goes here. So at that point, I'm having to advocate for her. That point, mommy mode kicked in. She's gonna be in chorus. She's in chorus, by the way. So he told me, he said, I'm gonna have to think about it and figure it out. It's just not feasible. It's feasible. She can sing in Spanish, she can sing in English, she can sing very well. She has a talent, she can draw. I want her to be in art, and I want her to be in chorus. This is Durham School of the Arts. She needs to be in these different courses. Needless to say, she is in chorus. I had to advocate for her. For the simple fact is, I believe that God, again, has given everyone a talent, and I'm so sick of society or local government labeling people because they have a special need that they cannot do, or they don't meet this, they don't meet they're not given the opportunity. Everyone deserves an opportunity, no matter if you have a disability or not. It makes them feel good, and they're human, and they can do stuff just like we can. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. That was a terrific question. Other questions on equality of opportunity? I've got one from the website, or Justin, Ashley. Justin, you want me to give it to Ashley? Huh? All right, sure. Cheers.
So my husband and I purchased a home on North Street a couple years ago, and we invested in our community. And we recognized that by investing in our community, we're also part of gentrification. And I would just love to hear the candidates speak a bit about how to best be our allied selves in representing disabled and the people of color in our community. I remember my husband and I celebrated the day that we decided to purchase our home, because we were like, our children will grow up with black neighbors and Hispanic neighbors, and they'll be able to speak Spanish, and they'll learn a culture that we want them to have. And then our real estate agent actually laughed and said, "You better be pregnant." And it scared us. It was like this moment where we were like, oh, wait, you mean this is gonna change? And that's not what we bought into. We bought into a diverse community. So can you speak a little bit on gentrification and how to maintain diversity in the downtown area?
Yes. I know everyone who's been asking questions. Joe, grew up in Hope Valley with my wife, which, other than my wife, was like a pretty much all-white neighborhood. So, it's interesting that you made the conscious choice, to choose a different space for your kids, even though, you grew up in Hope Valley, but you went to Jordan, so, there's diversity there. I think on the question of gentrification, it's important to, first of all, realize, I think, number one, you realize the impact that you're having. That's number one, is to be aware. Because a lot of people don't even start there. They're just thinking about trying to make a deal, and their bottom line is money, and that is oftentimes at the expense of our vulnerable populations. So that's number one. I think the second thing you can do is talk to the people in your neighborhood. You should meet everybody around your hood and see and talk and build relationships to see about ways that you can be someone who contributes and not someone who detracts. A great example of that, I met a woman 4 forums ago. We do so many forums, y'all. And she said she bought a house, a duplex, that she wanted to rent at one half at like $875, the other half at $400, where the $875 half was subsidizing the $400 half to keep it affordable. And she didn't have a lot of money, but she was making an investment, and that's where she wanted to build, and that's where she wanted to grow, that's what she wanted to contribute. Yet another example, like the North community, where we need to look no further than the citizens of Durham to find examples of what the solutions need to look like. That type of subsidized housing model, like a cooperative model, I think is exactly what we need to see more of in Durham, and that's what I would encourage you to seek out in solidarity with people who already live in your community and have been there for a while.
Thank you, Pierce. Shay?
So again, I'm going back to opportunity. I think a lot of times when we have the most vulnerable people, they don't have the resources or the opportunities never presented to them. And I think it's very important that, again, we do not discriminate against someone's religion, sexuality, disability, skin color. I think it's very important that we treat them as if they're human. They're just like us. And a lot of times we don't do that. We put people in a certain pool, certain category, and we just leave them there, and it's just pretty much, oh, well, let them fend for themselves. And as local government, we have to change that. We have to make everyone valuable, and everyone means something, and everyone should have an opportunity. But when you have local government that doesn't really push that, then it kind of gets pushed to the side. So for me, again, I have my family is a variety, a rainbow of different personalities and different people, and I love each and every one of my kids, husband. And for me, I love equality. I love the different and uniqueness, because that's what I represent. And I think it's very important that Durham is a vibrant and unique city, and we have to keep pushing forward. Even when we have people in local government that might not want that, we have to stick together for the people that want it, to make sure that everyone deserves a fair chance, sustainable housing, a decent place to live in a community where they're loved and they're treated with respect, and that their talents and their gifts matter.
Thank you so much. So to springboard off of that question from gentrification, I want to get to one question that came up on the website that I thought was relevant. There was some public debate last year and discussion about the Bimbe Festival, which once used to take place in downtown, and the Art of Cool Festival, and the Moog Festival. And the gist of the question was about equality of opportunity for newcomers versus long-standing institution in Durham. And how do you plan to honor the long-standing institutions of Durham while at the same time respecting the rights of newcomers to, you know, do what they want, do what they will, but how do you see that in the equality of opportunity context?
Hey, I mean, I feel that why can't we all just work together? Why does it have to be one versus the other? If someone is coming in and they're doing a festival, an event, and it's benefit the community, we should be able to honor each and every group of people because it's benefiting the community, and we're coming together, we're uniting. It's about community. This is our community. These are our children. This is our future. So I'm willing to work with everyone. I want to give everyone an opportunity. I don't want to exclude anyone, and that's how I feel.
Thank you so much, Shay. Pierce?
I got some feelings about this question, especially as an artist. Couple things. A lot of that comes down to money. Moog Fest came to Durham with money, and Art of Cool, as our kind of local grassroots organization, you know, was chomping at the bit for like a little bit of money, and then we handed over like a much larger chunk of money to Moog Fest. And I know it's not that simple. I've talked to Cicely, I've talked with the Moog folks about this as well, but money talks. And newcomers, the other newcomer story that comes to mind was written about in the Indie, and that was with Batala performing and rehearsing in the at the farmer's market, or across the street from the farmer's market. And the newcomers in that apartment complex across the street, calling the police on them and complaining about them. And it's like, look, we've been here, you know? What are y'all complaining about, and why are y'all using our police force to, you know? So I think that, you know, that's one of the dangerous things about, the real dangerous things about gentrification, both in real estate and in culture. There's a cultural gentrification that occurs as well. And gentrification in this country it's as American as apple pie, okay? When the colonists first got to this country and discovered, which is what they say when they moved to East Durham, I discovered, you know, something fascinating, you know what I mean? Then there's this idea that you can kind of come in and do what you want when there are people already there, and you can just push them out because they're disposable. And that really bothers me. Really bothers me, and I think we need to make sure that we lead with our values, that we respect the people who've been there, and let them, you know, have some leadership roles, even if they don't have the money to be able to demand that. They need to have that respect because of the longevity and because of their presence and the impact that they have on the community, not just on how many zeros are in their bank account.
Fair enough. Thank you very much.
Thanks. I'm not friends with either of you. I didn't go to elementary school, so. My question is, I do believe in the spirit of Durham, and I like the idea of the citizens making the change, but I'm curious, are there policies that we're currently hold in the city that you would want to see changed, and are there policies that you would proactively advocate for, and what are those?
That's a great question.
Pierce?
There are absolutely policies that I think need to be changed. Too many policies. So, like I mentioned in my intro, there's been a laser-like focus on development downtown. Between 2012 and 2015, there were $23.5 million in tax incentives offered to big companies downtown. And the premise was, oh, that's going to help build and spur development, and it has. But what it's also done is displaced a lot of people. As that investment has come in, there were no policies put in place to protect the folks who would be displaced by that development. And it's what it is a reflection of reactionary leadership. The fact that our city council members today are saying, oh my goodness, we're having an affordable housing crisis is evidence that they did not know or did not care when they were beginning to make those investments about what the implications of those investments would have. And it's so important. It's so important that we shift our focus and we shift our priorities to focusing on poverty. That is not a priority in the city of Durham. So what we're proposing is a jobs guarantee. I think that's something that attacks the core issue here. We have 6,000 unemployed people in Durham. We need to start providing those people with living wage jobs with benefits. That has implications for affordable housing. If you're making a living wage, you can afford to live in, you have more options for your places to live. Our public safety goes down. That's how you address our public safety issues. Here's another thing I would change. This year, $131 million in policing. We talked about policing earlier. $131 million, 71 for our new station, 60 million for the police. Why aren't we investing those resources in the community and the people? That is where the shift in priorities needs to happen, and I don't see anyone in our city council making that as much of a priority as it should be. And I will.
Thank you so much, Pierce. Shay.
So it's several things. For one, I don't see local government involved in the community as they should be. I see a lot of times they're paying consultants to go into the community. But for me, I'd rather not pay a consultant. I'd rather go in the community, talk to the citizens, get to know them, because they're going to tell you what's going on. So to me, that's wasteful, wasting money. You see them in certain areas. You might see them at a ribbon cutting, at a lot of the nice fancy hotels downtown or at the restaurants, but you don't see them when a shooting breaks out or all hell is breaking loose on the south side and a young lady's gotten shot in the head. You don't see them in those areas. And it's like, well, it's not too much we can do. It's a lot we can do. But first we have to be involved. Local government has to be involved. They have to do their part, go into the communities, work with the citizens, talk to the citizens, communicate with them. I think that's very important. Having a conversation with people, the citizens, it's very important. They don't do that. One of the other things is I think we give, local government right now, they give too much leeway or authority to the developers. I think we have the upper hand. Durham is booming, it's vibrant now. We should not allow developers to come in here and tell us what they're gonna do, how they're gonna do, and when they're gonna do it. That's crazy to me. I feel that you can come to Durham, but if you come to Durham, we're gonna have rules. So if you come here, you have to build a certain amount of units of affordable housing. If you can't do that, you can't come. So I feel that local government, they're a little bit scared on what to say and how to say it because they feel that if they do that, they will push the developers away. And I don't think that's the case. I think that they're still gonna wanna come because Durham is a great place to be right now. And we just gotta have some tough skin, and local government has to put their foot down and say what they want and mean what they want and do it. And affordable housing is another one. We have to mandate that everyone has affordable housing. It has to be a priority.
Thank you so much, Shay. We appreciate it. And we are going to try and respect everybody's time. We did originally say 8:30, and of course, you know, the candidates were at another forum, so we're not going to go far past 9. I do have a question here in the back of the room.
Hi. Thank you both for being here. I'm your lovely bartender tonight, but for 40 hours a week, I'm also the jail investigator for the Public Defender's Office in Durham County. So if you are arrested, I will come and talk to you. And I cannot tell you how many men and women I talk to every day that have left school in the 8th grade, the 9th grade. As a mother of 2 black sons, what will you do as mayor to engage the youth and focus on some educational outreach for the youth of Durham?
Great question. Just makes you proud to be in Durham that we have this kind of representation. Thank you.
So I am a substitute teacher. I've been one for 2 years now. I got a lot of different things that I forget to say or I don't say. I'm not anymore, but I was a contractor for Durham Public Schools for 3 years. I had my program at all of the middle schools. The last school I attended was Lucas. I have volunteered at Hillside, for 3 years. No pay, no thank you, no nothing, going unnoticed, not even really telling anybody, just going there to school every day, working with the kids. I've done Bridge for Gap for Durham Public Schools. I've done the SEND program. I've been involved, I'm really involved in the community with the youth. And it's very important because a lot of times they tell me, they say, Ms. Shea, people don't care. Nobody comes to the school, they don't talk to us, they don't care. So we gotta care about the youth, first of all. We gotta be relatable, second of all. And we gotta respect them because, you know, they don't want you talking down to them. So you gotta come at them a certain way in order to get their attention and get what you need out of them. I don't have any problems with any youth. I don't care if they're gang affiliated. I don't care what side of town they come on. I pretty much can interact with each individual youth, young adult in the city without any problems. About a month and a half ago, I'm running for mayor. I stopped a shootout at South Regional Library. Some people are like, you did what? So I'm in my car, minding my business, and people are walking by, and it's people going back and forth, a very heated discussion. And at that point, accountability means everything to me, because if they would have started shooting, I could have got shot. Well, I like my life, so I could not say anything. So at that point, I had to be accountable. And I rolled down my window. I'm not gonna say what I said, but I rolled down my window, and they looked at me like I was crazy. They thought I was crazy because I didn't know them from a can of paint. And I talked to them in a very firm tone, and they got the point. At that point, I don't know what happened, but they apologized and their manners kicked in. Yes, ma'am. I'm like, oh, you got manners. You were just saying you was about to shoot this dude. So what I'm saying is that a lot of times we don't want to get involved in young people's things. We don't want to say anything to them. They want you to say something to them. They want that love, because a lot of times they don't get it at home. They don't have the upbringing. They didn't have anybody to train them or tell them what to do, how to do it. So they let the street does it for them, right? And they get kind of wrapped up into crime, and it goes from one extreme to the next. But we gotta care about the youth. We gotta care. We gotta love them. That's all they want is love and attention.
Thank you so much, Shay. Pierce.
So I work with kids. I want to talk about that if I have time at the end. But first I want to talk about what we can do in city government to address your question. The first thing, and I give props to Mayor Bell for starting this initiative, is our misdemeanor diversion program. So when our kids get in trouble, they have the option now, the police officers have the option to refer them to a misdemeanor diversion program. And what that does is instead of doing jail time, instead of getting stuff on your record or going to a juvenile detention center, they can do some other creative or constructive activities, you know, to pay their debt to society. I think that program needs to be expanded. I think there's an age limit on it now. I think the cap on the age needs to be lifted. The misdemeanor diversion program should be available to all Durham residents. And I don't think it should be at the discretion of the officer. I think it should be mandatory for first offenders so that everyone has access to that opportunity. So that's one thing. And again, that's another thing that was outside of the purview of the mayor's office. Like, the mayor doesn't directly handle that kind of thing, but Mayor Bell was efficient at bringing the stakeholders to the table, and that's one of the things that the mayor needs to do. He brought the sheriff, brought the police chief, brought the DA, all the stakeholders in a room, and they said, look, we need to deal with this. Another thing that we can do as a city, a lot of our kids, especially kids of color, kids who are working class, you know, they suffer over the summers because of what we call the summer slide. So compared to their peers who might be more fluent and might be going to summer camps or traveling, you know, with their families over the summer, a lot of our kids have nothing to do over the summers, and when they start back in school in the fall, there can be 6 to 9 months behind their peers because they haven't been practicing those skills. So I think the city, even though the schools are on the county side, the city can play a role in doing workforce development, providing recreational opportunities for our kids over the summers so that they have just as much opportunity to be engaged, to be, you know, challenged, and to build skills that can get them jobs and get them paid. And when they get back to school in the fall, they are right on par with their peers. That's another thing we can do as the city. And in my remaining, 10 seconds, I'll say that I started a community center in downtown called Black Space to address this very issue. We do coding, we do beat making, we do 3D printing, we do poetry, we do hip hop. Please send your kids or whoever is going through your doors that's a teenager, please send them to Black Space. We'll take care of them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I do want to respect the time of the bartenders, the sound people, the film people, all of whom are working for us and generously donating their time. I do want to thank the Rickhouse for having us out here, along with all of our other sponsors, which include Ponysaurus Brewing, the Pinhook, St. James Seafood, the 21C Hotel, the Durham Hotel, Urban Durham Realty, Gridworks, Heather, I got them all. Pie Pushers is outside. Tip your bartenders. Do we have one more question from the audience before we let people go? Does someone want to ask one more question? Back there, I see a hand waving. Yeah, here, have the mic.
I just wanted to piggyback on what Pierce said. As a former teacher, I'm very well aware of the backslide, and I would like to see whoever's in the leadership position. I realize that the state sets the tone and the mayor really doesn't control public education, that kind of thing, but policy can be put in place to fund some of these summer programs that are largely run by volunteers and just don't have enough money. Instead of putting all this money in policing and all this money in that, that's where we need to have a leader who's focused on putting money and policy change in education and helping our children during the summertime when they can get in trouble. And I'm all for having someone who is thinking that way instead of the status quo.
Thank you so much. Shay, Pierce, you want to comment on that?
Thank you. Thank you. I just want to say that two quick things. One, that is the exact conversation I had with Chief Davis when I met with her a couple weeks ago. I was in MacDougall Terrace a couple of months ago. MacDougall Terrace is the biggest housing project in Durham, and there was a young brother coaching a football, pro bono, just volunteering his time. There were like 80 kids out there running laps, catching balls, doing drills. And a police officer rolled by, we kind of tensed up, and then the conversation we had afterwards was, if we could give that police salary to you to be able to do programs like this all the time, that would do a better job for public safety than patrolling the block. So I had this conversation really not knowing what to expect with Chief Davis, and her response was, "You're right." I was surprised to hear. And she said that in Atlanta, where she came from, they invested all types of resources into recreation, into sports, into extracurricular activities for kids, and they called it preventative policing. So this isn't something that's rocket science. This is something that can be done, and we can take some of that money, and there's a lot of it. There's a $430 or $429 million budget, and a lot of it is discretionary money. We have the opportunity to decide what happens with that money, and where we make those investments are a reflection of our values. So I want you to ask, what are your values, and do we have leadership in place that is reflecting our values and how they delegate the budget? If the answer is no, then we need some new leadership in City Council, y'all. So that's 30 seconds? Oh, I got 30 seconds. Okay. So with my final 30 seconds, are we going to get closing statements?
We're going to do 2 minutes to talk about your dream of what an equal opportunity Durham would look like.
I'll save that for my 2 minutes then.
That's fantastic. Thanks. Shay? They're shrieking like you're a beetle.
So, again, I believe that it's very important. We have to target our youth. And again, I'm going to keep saying this. A lot of times you don't hear local government talking about talent. I believe that's very important because each kid is individually different. And I don't think that's one special kid. And I think that we really have to focus on not just during the summer, but after school, because you got that gap between 3:30 and 6. They can get in a lot of trouble at that time as well. And just from my experience, just working with the kids in the community, a lot of times they really want to work on their passion and their dreams. They want to work on they really want to work on those things. A lot of times they don't want to do sports. I mean, that's available, but a lot of times kids, they're comfortable in what they believe that they're able to do, that comes easy to them. And for me, as running for mayor and possibly being your mayor, I'm going to push gifts and talents because I think that's very important. That allows them to be kids and it allows them to be different and unique and feel accepted and feel good and have self-esteem and confidence. And I think that's what kids need nowadays to get through life, to get through everyday life. It's very important. You can't do anything without self-esteem and confidence, and we don't push it enough. And we have to push that, because if the kids don't have self-esteem and confidence, they end up in bad situations and getting locked up and getting in trouble and doing bad in school. So we gotta push self-esteem and confidence, but more so we also gotta push for teachers that care about the kids and care about their gifts and their talents. I think that's very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shay. I do also want to give a special thanks to our timekeeper, Meredith Martindale, who is generously volunteering her time to do this. Meredith is also the founder of Picture Durham, as many of you know, but if you don't know, Picture Durham is a Instagram-based project that is collecting, much like we are tonight, your opinions about equality on Durham, your visions of what Durham looks like now. Picture Durham has done outreach where they've specifically gone to the homeless shelter, handed out cameras to people who otherwise wouldn't have cameras, paid to get the film developed for them, paid for them to get to see the output of their work. So please, thank you so much, Meredith, for coming. And thank all of you for coming, because I know you wouldn't be here at 9 o'clock on a weeknight unless you really did care about Durham and civic engagement. Please continue that through the Mayor Up hashtag. We will have a final one-on-one debate November 1st with the two candidates who win the primary. The primary does end October 10th, so if you haven't voted and your neighbors haven't voted, please get out there and vote. If people tell you they think they can't vote, you only have to have been a resident of Durham for 30 days, and you can prove it with a utility bill, and you can register to vote. So don't let your friends and the people you see in the bars after you leave tell you they can't vote. You tell them they can, and you tell them how. And thank you so much for coming. So we're going to do 2 minutes with Meredith's generous efforts to keep us on track on your vision for what an equal opportunity Durham would look like. Jay, I think you're first.
Gosh, so much to say in 2 minutes. So again, I'm Shay Ramirez. My husband is Latino. I have 6 teenage daughters. One is LGBTQ, and one is autistic. I'm a small business owner and a substitute teacher. I have many different areas in my life that stands for equality. And it's something that we have to force and make sure that is alive and well in Durham. We have to have equality for everyone. I'm not going to accept no for an answer. I'm not going to take, well, maybe. We have to. It's a priority. And we have to make sure that everyone is treated equal, no matter their religion, their sexuality, their skin color. We have to do that in Durham. I think Durham can do that. Durham is doing that, but I think we can do a much better job of it. And I think we can set the tone for the world, because the world we're living in right now, it doesn't stand for equality and equality for all. And I believe that's very important. We have to look in the city for positiveness, because right now we're not getting it in leadership in the United States. And I believe that it's very important, it's a must, and I stand for equality, like I said. I'm an African-American woman, but again, to me, I don't care if you're not African-American. I want opportunities for women, I want opportunities for everyone. I don't look at race as a barrier. I look at people, I love people, and I genuinely care about everyone, and I want everyone to be successful. That's my goal, that's my mission for the city. I believe it's very well possible. Everyone won't meet the mark, but I believe that as local government, we need to allow everyone the opportunity to be successful. I think that's very important. I think we can do it, and local government plays a huge part in that. We set the tone. So I'm asking you, vote for Shay Ramirez. I believe in our community, our children, our future, with accountability for all. Thank you.
Oh, so many things to say. So much things to say right now. I want to start just backing up a little bit at the macro level. You know, Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America, okay? We saw what he did. There's an assault on immigrant and undocumented folks' lives with the removal of DACA. We've seen the assault on trans lives. We've seen that he's unwilling to condemn white supremacists, but more than willing to condemn athletes who are making political protests, womanizing, you name it. The list goes on. That's at the federal level. At the state level, we have an unprecedented push to racially gerrymander districts in the state of North Carolina. We have right here in Durham, the state trying to come in and take over some of our public schools and try to transform the very ways that we educate and engage with our children and the ways that we fund that. That's at the state level. And right here in Durham at the local level, there's historic displacement that harkens back to the building of 147 and the way that that destroyed the Hayti community in Black Wall Street. These are the legacies of institutional racism, patriarchy, and homophobia that are ubiquitous in this country and present right here in the city of Durham. And we need our political leaders to step up and lead with our values and to say, no, we don't accept that. We are an open community, we're a diverse community, we're a community that puts our money where our mouths are and address the real root of the problems. And unless we can start building that political power and that political will right here, locally, right now. We need the civic will and the civic imagination to make a change in Durham, in the state, and in the country, and we can start right now with this election. Thank you so much. My name is Pierce Freelon. I'm running for mayor of the city of Durham. I'm humbly asking for your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pierce. Thank you for both of the candidates to coming. Thank you very much to Shadowbox Studios, who is graciously filming for this, who has also filmed both of our last two forums. You can see either of those forums on our Clarion Content YouTube channel. We want to hear more from you. The hashtag MayorUp will be out there. The candidates are available to answer questions. Thank you so much for coming. We will be back November 1st with a one-on-one debate at the finalists. Please vote and engage even after the election.